Hello, and welcome to mentorDINO. I'm your host, Caitlin Rossier. I am an architect and founder of mentorDINO. I firmly believe that architecture, engineering, and construction professionals can achieve true success by embracing human skills as their guiding principle. So each week, I interview amazing professionals in and around the AEC industry as a way to share stories, inspiration, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, we'd love to have you join our community. So if you like this episode, please do me a favor and hit subscribe, like, or leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own career journey. So let's dive in. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Welcome, everyone, to the mentorDINO podcast. I would like to welcome Bryce Batts, AEC Chief Matchmaker, career coach, and recruiter at Career Collective in Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you, Bryce, for taking the time to speak with me today.
Caitlin, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
So I am super excited to talk to you today because career coaching, mentoring, and professional development is one of my personal passions. So do you mind giving everyone kind of an introduction of yourself besides what I know and letting people know a little bit about your experience and your journey to how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I have been doing recruiting in the AEC industry for 12 plus years and had basically worked for one firm my entire career in recruiting, and I had my business partner now. He and I would always vie for the number one spot at our last firm. And, like many people during COVID, I was asking myself, what do I want to do next? What's next for me in my career? Early 40s, where am I going? And my business partner now, he and I decided to team up and started Career Collective. So that was early 2022. So going on 2.5 years, Career Collective does recruiting for the AEC industry. We work with clients nationwide. So it's pretty exciting. And we also do career coaching. So I would say we're a staffing firm with a coaching component. I was doing coaching before we started Career Collective, and so we decided to bring that piece into it as well. We have 2 offices now, one in Raleigh, which is our headquarters, and then one in Tampa, and we are trying to grow them and hiring. I just hired a couple of people, which is exciting. So we're about 20 people now.
That's great. And happy 2 years. I know the first couple of years are always the toughest.
It's a roller coaster.
So what got you into recruiting and coaching in general, and why did you decide to specialize on the AEC industry?
Yeah, so I'll throw it way back to my just post-college days. I met my husband my senior year of college. We both went to NC State University. He got a great job out of college in South Florida, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went back to school to get my MBA. I do not suggest just going back to school if you have no idea why you're doing it or what you want to achieve from that. But that's what I did. And luckily enough for me, I met someone there while I was getting my MBA, and she said, I am doing staffing for a company that just specializes in AEC, and this is what your husband does. Isn't he in that industry? Well, at that time, he was my boyfriend. And I said, yep, he's a landscape architect. So I was like, okay, I know some of the industry. I've met his colleagues. I would probably know some people through networking with him, and decided to give it a go. And I feel like no one sets out to be a recruiter. You kind of just fall into it. And that's definitely what happened to me. And just loved it. Never looked back, started on the recruiting side, and then started doing more account management, working with clients, doing sales and business development. And I just developed some amazing clients that I've worked with for now 10 plus years. And then got into coaching. I mentioned the COVID years. I worked from home for a long time. And being at home alone every day, it did give me extra time. I wasn't commuting, I had some cushion in my day. And when I was asking myself what's next in my career, I ended up getting my coaching certification because I could just see a great correlation between career coaching and recruiting. In the end, I want to help people find their dream job or just at least find a job they can be really excited about, something that would, they'd be excited to wake up for in the morning and not just earn a living, but, live a fulfilled life. And that's what got me into coaching. Really loved it. It really broadened my perspectives. And so now we've brought that into our business as well. So now we're staffing and coaching.
Yeah, that's great that you were able to bring together both sides of what you were doing anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So what kind of career coaching are you doing within Career Collective? Are you focusing on a particular like seniority level, or is it just kind of mixed bag or group coaching? What's that arm look like?
Yeah, it's pretty much a mixed bag. We haven't done any group coaching as of yet. That's something I would definitely be interested in the future. But right now, we're just working with people one on one, kind of meeting them where they're at, whether they're more entry level in their career, trying to figure out the next steps, how to network, how to grow in their career, or more senior level and asking themselves kind of that question of like, what's next for me? What's next in my career? you know. So it kind of runs the gamut, honestly.
Yeah, because you never know when somebody, I feel like as an architect, I'm going to question my career choices all the time. And just wondering, what am I working on? What do I want to specialize in? What's giving me energy? What is depleting my energy? And how
Yeah,
can I focus to have more fun? We only have so much time.
it's so
So,
true. I'm all about having fun and trying to work that into your day every day. And one of my first coaching clients was an architect in Chicago, or is an architect, and her husband is a GC. And so they eventually wanted to open a company together. So we talked about how she could start dipping her toe in those waters. And I've seen that across the board with some architects who are wanting to pivot into other things and trying to figure out where their skills can translate into other things.
yeah. Do you help anybody? I guess that's a pivot into starting your own business. Have you helped others pivot to a completely different career path?
Hmm. Not completely different. Some just small transitions. A civil engineer I worked with who wanted to get into a different type of civil engineering. So some things like that. Others who were just looking for a job, knew what they wanted, but needed some help. I worked even with a recruiter who was wanting to take the next steps in her career and find something a little different with better work-life balance.
Yeah. Have you found in the recruiting side and with everything that happened with COVID, they're kind of a different need versus what a firm can give in terms of flexibility and working from home versus fully remote? What have you seen talking to firms and people more nationally?
Yeah, I feel like most AEC firms are pretty risk adverse and are slower to move with the trends than other industries. What I saw in the beginning was during COVID, a lot of firms had people working at home because they had to. And because we work nationwide, it was really interesting. As you know, in New York, no one was going into the office for many, many months. And then we had clients in Florida who might have closed for a week, and then their people were back in. What I did see was a lot of firms being more flexible, either allowing people to work remotely or at least a good hybrid schedule. And now there's a real push and pull because candidates want to be remote or hybrid. And I would say those positions are few and far between, and they are becoming fewer
Hmm.
farther between. Clients are wanting everyone back in the office, and maybe they do one day from home, maybe two, if we're being generous. But most candidates are wanting 2 to 3 days from home, which I understand.
Yeah, because now we've all experienced working from home and that flexibility Like you don't have to commute in. And if you're
Right.
a New York commuter
Yeah.
versus sure more rural, like, okay, I only have 10 minutes, like 10 minutes, sure, may not be a big deal. But I know some of my friends up in New York City have an hour and a half, 2 hour commute each direction. So it's just like, that's a long time you're away from your family, or if you've got a work deadline that you need to work late and now it's just eating
Right.
up more time. I can definitely understand it.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, that's 4 hours of your day, depending on how far you're commuting, and you see how many hours that adds into your week. You know,
yep.
I know that working from home is not for everyone, but I did it for 12 years. I loved working from home. Um, so we do allow a hybrid schedule for our team at Career Collective. They're home on Wednesdays and Fridays, and they can earn a half day Friday or Fridays off, which they love the 4 day work week. If they can earn it. So I do think it's important to have that balance, at least flex hours or something, because people have a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Life happens. You
Yeah,
never
all
know.
the time, every week. I got home yesterday and my AC wasn't working, so
Yeah.
had to meet with a contractor today.
Yeah, definitely get that taken care of before the summer heat really kicks
Trying.
in. So, how was that transition from being an employee to a business owner?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I was a sole contributor and had to then move into not just running a business, being an entrepreneur, but also leading a team. So luckily, just like when you have kids, you learn as you go, and they start off. You think what's hard is easy because they're babies and they're not talking, and you just basically have to keep them alive. And then as they become teenagers, you're wrestling with harder things. I will say growing a team is similar to that because in the beginning, it was my business partner and myself, and we had two employees. Okay, we're one on one here. We can handle
Yeah.
two employees. And then we're growing from there. Three, four, now we're up to 20. And you hire the right people and put them in place. You definitely have to delegate. I want to hire people who can do all the things that I can't do. I will say I know at this stage of my life what I do well and what I don't, and can hire the people who do it better than me. And I'm happy to have them on the team.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for, I guess I'm more thinking of small firms. They struggle with that. Who do I hire next? And sometimes it can be scary to, okay, I need to go hire somebody and making sure there's enough work. Do you have any advice for those small firms looking to grow but maybe scared?
Yeah, I think in AEC it's even more difficult because there are so many big peaks and valleys. But I think knowing your business and knowing which months you're the busiest, and then looking at that and saying, can I hire interns for the summer? Will that get me through? And just really assessing who you need to hire and when, and looking at the books. We work with our fractional CFO a lot to understand when the money's coming in, when it's going out, and when we have enough to hire the people that we want to hire and what that will look like because there's always a ramp up time, whether it's AEC or recruiting. We hire people. We know they're not going to be profitable for the first 90, 120 days, could be much longer. So just taking those things into account as well.
Yeah. No, that's definitely important to understand. And you can only forecast out so far to, like, either you got a lot of small projects or one big project can come in. It can be a real big swing in your staffing needs pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to a client recently in Orlando and they had laid off a couple of people. And he said, well, now we have, and this was probably 2 months later, we have a lot of proposals out. He said they typically land 50% of their proposals. So he knew they needed to hire pretty aggressively to prepare for that work coming in. I think 50% is pretty good.
Yeah, that is a very good number for their win rate.
Yeah.
Have you noticed, since the AEC industry is more of a roller coaster, have you noticed anything that's helpful for people when recessions are coming in? Like COVID was really unexpected, but I know a lot of people in the AEC industry get worried about recessions once they've kind
Mhm.
of lived through one. see different layoffs and different other situations happen. Do you have any advice for those kind of downturns, whether for business owners or individuals?
Yeah, you're completely right because I was there recruiting during the 2008 recession. And I think we all remember that when a lot of architects left the industry altogether. And we're still seeing labor shortages now. It's really hard to hire and retain these people. I think on the employee side, to be really clear about what you want, what you're willing to do, what you don't want to do, just setting those goals and consistently networking. So, say there is a layoff, you can go to your network and you've kept your network warm. You've been attending events or talking to them on LinkedIn. You want to have your network teed up. So, if you do need them, you can tap into that and you're not starting from scratch. I know within the industry, there's so many events we go to and so many events offered. Just trying to go to a couple of those a month or, even a year could be really
Yeah.
advantageous. And then from the employer side, I think we always have to be pivoting, stay flexible, see where you can use people in different capacities. I have seen a lot of my clients being really nimble who are hiring, say, an electrical PE. They've been looking for an electrical PE for 2 years and can't find one. So then, they're talking about raising up a generation of employees. So we'll bring in an EIT with 3 or 4 years of experience and then promote from within. So then it's just figuring out how to retain these people, but you're not, losing work because you don't have the people in place.
Yeah, because I know I work for an A&E firm, and I've noticed the engineering side's even tougher than finding architects, at least what we've seen, and just trying to find those senior mid-career
Yeah.
engineers that are willing to pivot and move to a different firm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, granted, finding a licensed architect or seasoned architect that knows what they're doing isn't easy either,
Right.
but I think it's definitely what can you do with those students that are coming out of school? They're ready to go. They're really excited to get their hands dirty, but how do you get them up to speed as fast as you can
Mm-hmm.
while also trying to accelerate them without overloading them so they're not drowning
And
in the
that's a problem
process?
I see with these small to mid-sized firms because they're so busy, they don't have the people in place, maybe, as you're saying,
Hmm.
in the middle, those project managers who can really mentor them and train them and give them the guidance they need. Most of those firms aren't paying recruiters for an entry level person because they can find them on their own at career fairs and things like that. They want someone with at least 3+ years of experience. But the other reason is so they don't have to handhold them every step of the way, which
Yep.
is what they need. But if you're willing to put that in and you have a good retention plan in place, then hopefully you can grow them up through the firm.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not easy figuring out which one is the best way to move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
But pivoting on to another topic, you are also a podcast host and you do the Wine After Work podcast. So, what got you started into podcasting and what topics do you cover?
Well, working from home for 12 years, I would listen to podcasts all the time. I'm a super curious person and I just wanted to learn everything I could. And it just kept me entertained during the day. I prefer to listen to podcasts over music. And I know some people can't multitask like that, but I would just be in the flow. And then channeling my inner Oprah, I grew up watching Oprah. I was like, oh, I just love her so much. I want to ask questions. But honestly, like what lights me up is talking to other women, whether they be entrepreneurs, pivoting into entrepreneurship, or just talking about their career, because oftentimes it is not linear.
Hmm.
It's different than men. We were having kids and juggling so many things. So I just love hearing their stories. And so a lot of times our topics are just, work life balance or how they got where they are today and what excites them, what's next for them in their career, and what that journey has looked like. I'm always curious about the journey and how they got there.
Yeah, because everyone assumes it's linear or you just move up the ladder or you plateau. at a certain point, and it's really not. Even the discussions I've had where I kind of talk about careers with no matter who it is in the AEC industry, I've never found anybody on a linear path. Something pivots or pushes them, or they said they'll never do something, then they ended up doing it. Or ones that just kind of stumble upon like a specialty or a niche that they weren't really expecting, but then they found they loved it. So they just did more of it.
That's so true. And when you're young and right out of school, I think most people feel like, well, I went to school for this. Now I'm going to get a job in this. And then 5 years from then, I will potentially move into this next step of my career. And then 10 years from now, I'll be here. There's so many unknowns, so many variables. And again, I think you have to be adaptable, but enjoy the journey because you don't know where it'll take you.
Exactly. Like I had no idea when I graduated college that I'd be doing this podcast or all these other things on the side. It's like, nope, I graduated. I just wanted to be an architect and go work on healthcare projects. And I've done so many other different project types and doing all sorts of things that there's no way I could have guessed that 10 years ago when I graduated.
Yeah, so. That's awesome.
Over talking to people with the podcast and recruiting and coaching, what are some typical struggles you find within the AEC profession?
I think the biggest thing we touched on are labor shortages, finding the right people for the position. Companies have a tough time, so that's why they hire recruiters. I always tell them, I understand it's expensive, and so we're not your first choice. I get that. But hopefully we can speed up the process for you and vet them out a little bit before they go for an interview, before you hire them. We've done some of that legwork for you and find that great match for you. So labor shortages for sure. I think economic constraints, we talked about the recession, that's really tough too. Obviously, inflation has been difficult for a lot of firms. You're seeing some projects put on hold and things like that, or hiring put on hold. It's especially hard for smaller firms who are trying to attract and retain top talent. But those are the two toughest. And then again, those big peaks and valleys. So the workload, knowing the work you have coming in, when to hire, and then how to keep your folks busy if there is a slowdown.
Yeah. And how would, I guess I've never really reached out to a recruiter solo. I've had plenty of recruiters reach out to me.
So you're LinkedIn, right?
Exactly. And I've at least gotten good at least getting back to you guys and saying like, hey, not interested. Because one of my pet peeves is ghosting people. And the amount of times that like people would just keep following up, it's like, just tell them not now and it's fine. But if I was in a position as a individual looking for a job, what advice do you have for that individual to reach out to a recruiter that may need some help?
Yeah, great question. So number one, yes, always respond to the recruiter, even if you're not interested, because you never know. I always tell people, don't burn a bridge. Just keep the door open for opportunities or at least conversations, because you don't know what's going to happen down the road. And then if you do need a recruiter for you, for your friend, a colleague, you've got their number or their name saved in your LinkedIn messages. But if you are looking, update your LinkedIn, update your resume. If you're on LinkedIn, and hopefully you are, turn on your open to work to recruiters. You don't have to be open to work for everyone to see, so colleagues can't see it, but at least be open to work for recruiters. And then if you've got an updated resume and those keywords in your profile, we will be able to find you. We do all the searches, so we can find you. And don't be scared to ask questions, or at least just have an open conversation with the recruiter, because a lot of people, I think, just don't want to have that conversation. And if you're at work, we're happy to call at lunch, after hours. We can text or email. You can set your own boundaries and what you're comfortable with. And if you have questions about who the firm is, or the type of work they do, feel free to ask those things up front and we'll tell you everything we can. A lot of times the clients, we only have as much information as the clients give us. So we will encourage a call, because if you have questions, why not have a 15-minute call with the HR person or the hiring manager, and they can answer your questions, and then just an initial call.
Yeah. I've never like put on my LinkedIn like ever opening for work, like open for work or hiring. So it's good to know that that could be hidden, because like if I was open to work, I wouldn't want my own employer to know that.
Right.
And you're connected with so many people internally with your office. So it's good to know that that's an option, to at least hide it to recruiters only.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you know, AEC is such a small world, small industry.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows everyone else. And I think that's a concern for a lot of candidates when they work with a recruiter. Well, where's my resume going? And you can definitely ask who your resume is being sent to, and know that a lot of times, if it is being marketed to other companies, that will be shared with you and it can be sent confidentially. They take off your
Mm-hmm.
name, your contact information, your current employer, your license number, anything that could give you away.
Yeah. Now, here's a general question. Why, when a recruiter reaches out to me, do they not actually tell me what firm is interested? They
Yes.
always say, like, this up and coming or this large firm, and then they give you like 5 words. And I'm like, well, if you just tell me who it is, I could either be really excited or tell you no right away.
A lot of times we'll wait for the response. And then if they're interested, okay, great. Well, I'm happy to tell you, Caitlin, who the firm is, what type of work they do. But the reason we don't give it up front is because that's our commodity, having the
Mm-hmm.
client that we're working with. And if we are to tell you who the client is, a lot of recruiters fear that you would just self apply or tell your friend, hey, apply at so and so, they're hiring.
Yeah.
So they don't want to always tell you right up front.
I always find it a game, even when I'm not like looking. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can figure out what firm it is without reaching out and asking.
It is a little
Because
cat and mouse game.
especially in Pittsburgh, it's a smaller city, so there's not as many firms as like
Sure.
LA, New York, those bigger metropolitan areas. So it's like, I wonder if I could figure it out and
Yeah.
see what's going on.
Certain keywords, and you're like, yep, I know who that is.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone struggling in their current work situation?
I do. Yes. I would say try to identify, excuse me, try to identify the root cause. So take some time to really reflect and ask yourself what's going on. Communicate with your supervisor. Always be willing to go to your manager or upper management and have an open and honest conversation with them about what's going on with you. Also think this could be dicey, but depending on where you work, you might want to seek some support from colleagues. If you have a couple of colleagues you're really close to, talk to them. Maybe they can talk you off the ledge. And then always trying to set realistic goals. I think the younger generation gets a bad rap because we hear, oh, they just want to come in, they want to work 6 months and want a promotion, or work a year and they want to be owner of the company. So I do think just be realistic. And then it goes back to having that open and honest conversation too. I do think work life balance is a myth. Sometimes you're
Mhm.
working more, sometimes you're taking care of yourself more, but strive to take care of yourself. Again, it goes back to setting those boundaries, and then obviously work with a recruiter, a coach, a therapist if it's needed.
Or all three at the same
Yes,
time. You may need it.
to re-steer the ship.
Yeah, especially I found as I talk to more senior professionals, they've are often more burning themselves out because they've just been on this like constant work the entire time. And now that they're getting older, they just can't keep up with the pace they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them more struggling than the younger professionals that have kind of had mental health conversations, and they're standing up for themselves a little bit more on setting boundaries and making sure they get sleep, get outside, take a break. And
Right.
so I think it's a weird dynamic of struggles kind of on the two sides, which every generation has their own unique set of circumstances that happen.
Yeah, and I think
But
we've gotten better with that. My husband and I graduated in 2001, and I remember he was working for a firm and pulling all-nighters at the beginning of his career and traveling a bunch. I was like, I didn't even pull all-nighters in college.
mm-hmm.
What are you doing? So I think the profession has gotten better, but especially with architecture, it's very deadline driven. You guys might be working late hours sometimes, but you tell me. I'd be interested to hear your take on it. But I think we've gotten a little better at understanding people can't consistently work 50, 60 hours a week or more, and it's not sustainable or healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think since AEC is so related to the arts, it's more of the entire kind of artistic creative industries as a
Mhm.
whole. Like we can all, you could be in movie making or like clothes design, anything design oriented or have a creative nature can kind of assume like take over a person who's ever working on it, because if you really have a passion for it, you're really gonna strive to get kind of that perfectionism out of it, which can be impossible, but people will try to achieve it. And they just enjoy it. I know I got into architecture more for the drafting side. So
Mhm.
I prefer to do a lot of my drafting work in the afternoon because I tend to hit a 3 p.m. wall, as I call it. And if I have to write at 3 p.m. or
Oh, yeah.
start a new activity, it's not happening. Like I just won't have the motivation. But because my passion is drafting and I can feel like I'm accomplishing something and moving forward, I could do that, and then all of a sudden it's 6 and I'm like, crap, I'm usually done at 4:30. Like I almost have to set an alarm for
Gotta get
myself to
out of here.
stop.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it depends if you really, I guess, focus too much of your energy on all the things you really like doing, you have to set reminders for yourself to stop and to step back, because sometimes it can just kind of take over and you not even realize it. But it will slow you down after a while. I get points where I'm like, I don't want to look at a screen for another couple days,
Yeah.
or prefer to like take something at a book or sketch something on a piece of paper rather than like we have so many digital tools for sketching now, and there's just great, I could do that, but I'm just so tired of monitors that I'm
Mhm.
going to go hand sketch something instead, just to give my eyes a break, do a different mode of design. So it can definitely help, but we definitely have tendencies
Well,
to
I
work
love
those
that
later
there's that
hours.
passion behind it. And, when you're in a flow, you don't want to stop working. So I totally get that. But I had not thought of it as just the artistic process as a whole, that
Hmm.
design process and wanting to get it just right.
Yeah. And you never know when you're going to get inspiration. Like I always have like a notebook or a pad of post-its on my bedside, because you never know, like trying to fall asleep and then you get an idea on like, this is how I can solve this problem, or have this diagram to solve something, as just something to get done. But I know I also can't sleep if like I had a whole floor plan disappear on my project and we were in
Oh,
construction
God.
documents, and I'm like, you know what, nope, I am working late, everybody is out of the model, so I won't have any error messages, and I had to duplicate an old model and carry everything over. So it was a couple hours in the evening, but I knew I wouldn't be able to fall asleep if I had to do that first thing in the morning. So
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
it's okay, I gotta shift and pivot and
Right.
adjust my work life balance to be a little bit more work so then I can sleep, knowing how I operate.
And I think it's good to know yourself in that way. If stressful things are going on, you can't sleep, or in the morning if you wake up super early and immediately your brain clicks on, you may as well
Yeah,
just get up and get the work done.
exactly. Because some people do great work first thing in the morning. I know a couple architects that own their own business, and they'll wake up first thing, just grab their cup of coffee, sit down, and get some work done right away, and then go take a break to shower, have a later breakfast, and kind of break up their day a little bit different.
Yeah,
But I think it's important to find what works for us.
for sure.
So, which also leads into flexibility in work schedules and hybrid work and all the things so everybody can work at their best.
Yeah, so many people think, I think we've been taught as well, you have to wake up at 5, get your workout in, do all the things, and then get to work. But if you're not a morning person and you absolutely hate that and you're not
Uh-huh.
productive, then it's okay to have a totally different schedule. Maybe you start work at 9 and work out at night, or
Yeah.
see friends at night, you know?
I would love to wake up at 5 and get a workout in. I feel so much better when I do it, but the bed's really comfy in the morning.
It is.
um, Shifting over to organizations, I know we talked a little bit about the importance of networking and having a network of professionals. Has there been an organization that's left a big impact on your career journey?
That's a great question as well. I've only worked for one company basically my whole career. So I have to say that organization made a big impact on me. And that's where I learned most of my recruiting, the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ugly. Organizations that we're members of here at Career Collective, we're part of the local AIA chapter, which we've really enjoyed. SMPS, which has been cool. Seen some familiar faces, clients I work with. And so we've enjoyed being a part of those organizations, and we're hosting the golf tournament with AIA next Monday, so that'll be fun. So try to
Yeah.
get to some of those events, because we work with architects and engineers all day, but when we're talking to them or screening them, I say, look, I'm not an architect. I don't speak your same language. I know some of your struggles and what you're looking for and things like that, but I like to be at those events to hear more of that, and to get FaceTime with our clients.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for younger professionals going to more organizational events? Because I find they tend to be more at a minimum mid-career, but even if they're in a large firm, mid-career professionals don't get those opportunities to go to SMPS events that tend to be a lunch hour thing. It tends to just be the business development person
Mhm.
and the head principal. So what advice do you have for the younger professionals?
I would say speak up and be an advocate for yourself. Let leadership know these things are important to you. And I think most of the time, management or leadership will be receptive to that. We've had people within our company speak up, and now they go to the young professionals networking events, and other socials at night we've found through AEC that host industry events. So, as we say a lot of times around here, is be the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So, ask for what you want, advocate for what you want. And if you have a deadline, of course, maybe that event is not going to be the event for you to go to, but there will be other ones. And oftentimes, I think people in the management or leadership level don't have the time and the energy to seek out or search these events out for you. But if you're finding them and bringing them to management and saying, this is what it costs, this will be my time out of the office, and this is what I'll gain from the event, I think they would be very open to it.
Yeah. And do you have any, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. That's the problem when I come up with my own questions. um, do you have any advice for seeking opportunities,
Within your
whether
current
it
firm?
be career or job? Like, what are some things you're always coaching people on to be able to find the opportunities that best suit them, or like information you look for if you're helping them find an opportunity? Like, what are the things that are helpful little nuggets that can help people find what they're looking for if they don't know what they're looking for?
Yeah. Be willing to work your network, whether that's in person or on LinkedIn, and let people know what you're trying to achieve. So don't just message people, on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm looking for a job. That's not helpful. They're probably not going to respond. But if you say, hey, this is what's going on with me, this is what I've recently achieved, this is what I'm looking for, and just give them a couple little nuggets to go off of, and just say, if you'd like to see my resume, I'm happy to attach it. I'm looking for something new. And again, give them a tidbit of what you're looking for so they can either point you in the right direction or introduce you to someone who can.
Mm-hmm.
So just giving direction, again, in person or online, but continuing to speak with your network. And then once you've decided what you want, show up as that person on LinkedIn, whether you're sharing articles or offering advice or just commenting on other people's posts. Get involved. So showing initiative.
Yeah, any little thought leadership is important. Like, I know I ignored LinkedIn for a really long time, and now I realize kind of what I've missed out on, that I'm like, oh, I could have been on here, and like I didn't have to post content as much as I do now, but the connections you make just following other people and seeing what pops up, you never know what's going to happen. Because I find a lot of young professionals aren't on LinkedIn, or they are, but like they don't look at it, they don't check it, they don't even acknowledge when messages come through.
Right.
So definitely working that network is so important.
Yeah, and even at in-person events, I understand networking in person can be scary or uncomfortable. Just go in with a goal. I'm going to meet up with 3 people, or I'm going to get 2 people's business cards, or I'm going to speak to 5 people I've never met before. Whatever it may be, just go in with a goal and tell yourself, I'm not going to stand in the corner and I'm not going to leave until I do this.
Yeah, and it's not a goal of I'm going to have a job interview set up when I leave this event.
Right.
It's I'm going to get 2 business cards. Yep. And they don't even have to be ones you want to apply to, but you got 2. And that's all you need.
Exactly.
It's all baby steps.
For sure. I'm all about baby steps.
And I like always wrapping up my podcast with this final question. And we've probably hit it a number of times, but we'll see if we can summarize it. And it's, what advice do you have for young professionals just starting their career?
Yeah, if you're just starting your career, I would say set clear goals on what you want to achieve, and then make sure to seek out a mentor or someone in your network who can help you get to where you want to be. It's okay to do informational interviews or take people to coffee or meet up with them for a drink after work, whatever it may be, but just setting the goals, finding the mentor or someone within your network, a coach even that you can work with, and then making sure to keep showing up as that person and taking the initiative.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic advice. And it definitely hits kind of everything we've talked about in our entire conversation. So if anybody is looking to get a hold of you or wants to get a hold of Career Collective to help them on their career journey, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn all the time at Bryce Batts. And then our website as well, which is mycareercollective.com. We've got our jobs posted there. Our emails are there, phone number. So any way you want to get in touch with me, smoke signal, I'll be answering.
Carrier pigeon, whatever works.
Thanks.
But thank you so much, Bryce, for taking the time to speak with me today. I'm sure we've helped out so many professionals in the AEC industry just looking for that extra little nudge or push to help where they want to go on their career journey.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's been fun.
I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait for the next career story I get to share with you next week.